and welcome to another Galactic Mayan Astrology Report. So this is an astrology report for the 12th of July 2020, and yeah, it's that time again. So within the 260-day 9-month spin of the Galactic Mayan calendar, we have two very powerful 13-day processes, and they happen if you see the whole grid is split into columns. So we imagine that the central column is our heart, is our core, is the middle. So these two super potent wave spells are on either side of that central column. So this is a very powerful time. Now the reason that these wave spells are extremely potent is because scattered throughout this calendar we have what we call portal days, and the portal days are essentially where the veil between the dimensions is thinner. It is where we are more able to attune to and access the cosmic reality that we are a part of, that often we wiggle out of the ability to perceive. So these particular wave spells have got 10 of these portal days back to back. So it is a really, really powerful time. So the particular wave spell that we're moving into is the energy of red serpent. So red serpent energy, it's a red sign, so it's about the awakening, it's about activation, it's about beginning. It's also the energy of earth. We've got this real primal connection with the red signs. It's very much about the potential of the planetary consciousness, so our human being form energy. And yes, so something that with the red serpent energy, we have a real opportunity, and kind of we're pushed into it, to shed. So there's really this process of allowing the old skin to fall away, allowing the old skin of certain relationships, of certain expectations, of certain chapters of life to be released at this time. And often we are so attached to these skins, these layers of our experience, these layers of ourselves, that we end up in this big fight. And the truth is that when that skin has to fall, it has to fall. No matter how much we want it to stay, it has to be shed, because we are constantly evolving. You know, I really feel that this time on the planet and our experience on the planet at this time is so heightened. And you know, whereas at one time we would have had our entire life and the one big karmic lesson of the lifetime, it very much feels like at this time, when we are working consciously, we're going through multiple lives in one go. We're going through multiple karmic lessons quite swiftly after one another, and that's really what this energy of the serpent reveals to us. It's like, you know, yeah, we might have shed a skin last year, but there's another one that's ready to be released. And the piece that feels to be really activating now is around the heart. You know, it's the shedding of the skins around the heart. So the energies around codependency, the energies around, you know, fawning. So a friend of mine recently introduced me to the, you know, we've got the fight, the flight and the freeze, survival, trauma responses. There's also this other mechanism that's now becoming recognised in the mainstream, which is about pleasing. So this, you know, going into the please, going into the one who will bend over backwards in order to survive within an environment, and you know, so all of those survival mechanisms are very much aligned to the serpent energy. You know, the serpent is like the base chakra stuff. So the base chakra being all about security and survival, and what we developed, you know, in response to the need to survive, and how we may be completely through, in some ways, the experiences that we needed to survive back in the day. Those mechanisms are still playing out for us, and it's really this opportunity of stripping back and the recognition of, okay, so how stable do I feel? How safe do I feel? What do I need to do in order to connect? Now, obviously, also, the energy of the serpent is very much aligned with the Kundalini energy. So again, the idea of that is this, you know, energetic serpent that coils up the spine, activating all of the chakras. It begins at the base, and I feel like, you know, for many of us, because of the way that we live, you know, because of the out of balanced society that we've built upon the land, that's not in alignment and integration with the land, and when we're operating in these, you know, crown connection spaces, grounding is really difficult for us. So how can the Kundalini energy possibly move when we're not grounded? So within, you know, the serpent energy, something that struck me when I was first introduced to it maybe 10 years ago was this knowing that when a serpent sheds its skin, it sheds its skin from its eyes. And I always relate this to the serpent process, because we are also shedding perceptions, we're shedding belief systems, and you know, it's like everything, you know, sometimes we need something to be there to take us to the next step, but that doesn't mean it has to stay there. So for instance, with a perspective on reality, you know, there may be like a crutch belief that we needed to adopt in order to take us to the next step and carry us to this certain point, but we may not need that crutch anymore. When we're riding a bicycle, when we're learning to ride the bicycle, we have stabilisers on for a bit, we have extra wheels, and they support us to get to the place where we are confident and able to ride the bike, but at some point those stabilisers have to come off, and that is the same. It's reflected in all areas of our lives and our belief systems. So yeah, also within this energy, you know, we're really invited into that real primal connection with the earth, the belly to earth. You know, the serpent is so close to the ground, constantly moving from that place of instinct. And this is another big piece, of the serpent energy. It's instinctual awareness and instinctual navigation of reality. Now, whenever we're working with these archetypes, you know, we can grid into all that we've learned about, or all of the archetypal ideas around whatever the sign is. It doesn't have to, you know, just have come through the Dreamspell astrology. So the serpent also is Lilith. The serpent is, you know, the temptress that took Eve, manipulated Eve, and essentially then led, you know, humanity to fall from grace. But really, what was the serpent doing? It's this opportunity for free will, it's this opportunity for self-knowledge, the understanding of self. And again, as we are journeying through our process of knowing who we are, we're shedding who we aren't. And this particular time on the planet is incredibly powerful for the cleansing and releasing of the old stories, the discovery and experience of our new myths and stories, and You know, as we let go of things, we make space for things, and when we are on a personal development journey, when we are consciously evolving, we are changing all the time. So our reality is going to change. You know, we're not, even if two people are consciously evolving together, what we are evolving into, or the places that our psyche and our soul is taking us to next in order to continue our process of evolution, may not be the same. So we have to allow for that. We have to allow for ourselves to surrender to the will of the divine, for our reality to change and to transform, and to be able to say hello and say goodbye with love, and really trusting that self-knowing, self-being, self-connection that is all that is, you know, and really journeying into being able to be comfortable with the release, with the shedding, you know, and then also holding this awareness of however big it feels, however the greater the level of resistance reveals the greater amount of space that will be created as it is released, that then reveals the potential of what can be accessed once that spaciousness has been created within our lives. Now, for me personally, my journey at the moment is around changing timelines, trajectories of life crumbling, unknown trajectories opening, going through the grief, going through the release, going through the let go. But this new piece of learning for me personally is around how to do that without closing off my heart, without closing and hiding and refusing, or it's like still being open, still being loving, still being in that space of like, yes, whilst also stepping backward or stepping forward in a different direction. So really this serpent energy takes us in this very potent 13-day process, and as I say, we've got these 10 back-to-back portal days. We're carried into a new way of being, a new version of self through releasing. So really, you know, if in the same way that sometimes we go through our homes or our cupboards and we have a really big clear out, and it takes us a little while to get to that point. It's like, oh, I've had that jumper for years, and if I don't wear it this time, I'm going to get rid of it, and all of that stuff that's then just accumulating. It's the same thing for our internal worlds. And this is the spring clean of the psyche Wavespell. This is the, okay, we get to choose, you know, we get to tune in and we get to decide, okay, I'm ready to release that, I'm ready to move through that. This is a wonderful time for ritual, for connection, and always, this is always, you know, it's time for energy clearing and rerouting and fine-tuning and detangling the psyche, releasing the old beliefs, releasing the trauma from our past experiences, and doing that in whatever way feels good for you. But this is a time where that is going to happen, or the things that are no longer fitting and aligning, it's going to go. So we either move with that or we resist it, and that's our choice as well. But if something is moving and we are feeling the need to grasp and hold, then maybe that is something that we can put our conscious awareness into and plant the intention of releasing that aspect of our coping mechanism. Okay, I feel like I really need to hold on to this, so I'm going to step back again and come into a space of I'm open to releasing this need to grasp and to pull and this resistance. So we're really journeying into a space where we're going to emerge with fresh skin, we're going to emerge sensitively, but we're also going to have the space for the activation of power, like this this wave spell and the serpent energy is powerful, you know, and when we can grid into that and use the activations to really power us up, again, we're riding a different wave. So I hope that this wave spell gives you space to release anything that you're feeling like you're ready to release. I pray that you are able to surrender anything that you don't want to release, that you've been asked to let go of. And I also really invite you, as I've invited you in a few of the recent videos, to dive into the space where, that internal space where you are holding yourself. So when we're going through, and again this is the piece that's really strong for me at the moment, it's like, how can we allow the grief, allow the ending, allow the grief, allow the pain without closing off? And that comes from cultivating that aspect of self that holds us. So if there is grief moving, if there is resistance, yeah, the invitation is to surrender the resistance, but that doesn't mean surrender the pain. Feel the pain, allow it to move, allow it to emerge. You know, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy or enjoyable to release certain things. It's probably going to be quite painful, because the majority of the things that we hold on to in our deepest self feel to keep us safe. So it's a huge thing to begin to release these things. But holding that space for ourselves so that we can crumble and we can fall, but also we're held. So I hope that you have a beautiful wave spell, and yeah, that you really allow yourself to drop into this space, find that powerful edge, and meet all that spaciousness that is on offer. Take care, beautiful one.